It's okay not to be perfect with finances. Experian is your big financial friend and here to help. Did you know you can get matched with credit cards on the app? Some cards are labeled No Ding Decline, which means if you're not approved, they won't hurt your credit scores. Download the Experian app for free today. Applying for No Ding Decline cards won't hurt your credit scores if you aren't initially approved. Initial approval will result in a hard inquiry, which may impact your credit scores.
Experian.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kan du norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Hello everyone and welcome to How Are The Podcast. It's Gav and you join us for a reaction pod. We are here to chat all about the news which broke very late on Tuesday evening that Tommy Watson has agreed a deal with Brighton and Hove Albion to sign up in the summer. He'll remain with Sunderland for the rest of the season and we're here to chat all about it. Joining me is Martin. Hello mate.
Hello, mate. It was a bit of a surprise, wasn't it? It's a funny, there's a few things to pull out of it, isn't it? The timing of it, the actual move itself, what it means for Watson for the rest of the season. So, no, it's quite an intriguing one, really.
It is. Before we give our opinion on things, I guess I should probably quickly read through the statement the club put out, just so we can give an overview on what's known and what's been said. The club said Sunderland FC have reached an agreement with Brighton and Hove Albion for Tommy Watson to join the Seagulls in June 2025. June being, I presume, when they start pre-season or whatever. The 18-year-old will spend the remainder of the season at the Stadium of Light before completing a move to the Amex Stadium for a significant undisclosed fee. Watson has made 14 senior appearances this campaign and scored twice, whilst registering 5 goals and 3 assists in 6 Premier League 2 outings. Kristjaaan Speakman said, Tommy Watson is a very talented young player who's been subject to multiple offers from Premier League clubs over the past 2 windows, and it's been well documented that we've declined these approaches with the intent of extending his contract. Unfortunately, this has not been possible, and we now believe this agreement represents the best long-term outcome for Sunderland FC. Tommy's first joined our club at the age of 6, and his rise to the first team demonstrates what is possible at the Academy of Light. We are proud of the role we have played in his development, and although we will be disappointed to see him depart in June, we know he's fully committed to helping the team through the final stages of the season. So, that's what Kristjaaan Speakman had to say about it. Undisclosed fee, which has been reported by Fabrizio Romano to be around £10 million. Initial thoughts then on what Kristjaaan Speakman had to say in the fee and stuff, because, as you said, came out the blue. Very random to announce this on a Tuesday night, so it's clearly been rumbling around in the background probably since before January, really, but strange timing and all the rest of it. 10 million quid, what do you reckon?
Well, there's so many aspects to it, isn't there? So there's the aspect of him actually moving to another club, and I don't think that's any surprise. That didn't come as a surprise really, because we had the whole palaver in January on deadline day, or 1st of February, whenever it was, where he'd driven down to Brighton apparently to try to get the move done. And there'd been rumours in the summer as well that Brighton wanted him. So the fact that he's gone to Brighton, I don't think there's not a great deal of surprise in that, because it's been bubbling under in the background. There's been far too much talk in the background for there not to be something quite substantial in it. So that bit isn't a surprise. The fact, and it's that kind of rose-tinted glasses, and I'm always conscious of the fact that we've got a very tunnel vision view on Sunderland a lot of the time, and we obviously want the best for the club, and we look at the club in the best of lights and a lot of the time, but I just can't see why he'd want to go. If you take money out of the equation, which I think is probably a big factor in it, I don't really see why he'd want to go. That we could well be a Premier League club come June. And if that's the case, he's he's second in the pecking order for left wing at the moment at potentially a Premier League club. So it's a funny one, and I just think I just think back to myself, and you'd be the same, Gav, right? If you joined Sunderland, if you were a Sunderland supporter, joined the club at 6, and you've just made the breakthrough at the first team when you're 18, you've scored your first goal or two at the stadium, like you've played a few games. Like, why would I just don't understand why you'd want to go elsewhere. Like, I think it's a move that is maybe 2 years too early for him, in a lot of respects, because he's going to go and join Brighton's under-21 side. He's not going to go into the first team. So it's a funny one. I think it's a bit of a puzzling one, but we've obviously decided, because we could have held on to him because he's got another year left in his contract. But we obviously decided to cash in on him now because he's evidently said he's not signing a new contract. He's turned down the contract offers that have been on the table. So from a club perspective and business perspective, they've decided, I think they've said 10 million plus one in add-ons plus a substantial sell-on fee if Brighton sell him in the future. So, it could end up being a good deal for us. But I just think I think it's a couple of years too early. It seems a really strange one.
I think the bits we don't know about this are probably quite important. So the things like, the conversations he's had with the club over the last couple of years. I mean, I will just remind people that Tommy Watson waited until very last minute to sign his pro deal with the club. That rumbled on for ages. There was 2 players, wasn't there? There was him and Mason Kocher around the same time. Yeah. And Kocher ended up, he's only just signed this season for Aston Villa, but he was in purgatory for a little while then. Watson was another one who kind of dragged his feet, and for whatever reason that took quite a while to get done. So it's not like the club have just got their heads around the fact that dealing with his demands and his agent's demands and all the rest of it might be a little bit problematic. I don't know. We're very thin on details of stuff that we're probably not ever going to be privy to on this. But the stuff we do know, the Kristjaaan Speakman said we wanted to extend his contract. Obviously, we haven't been able to do that. The club always put themselves first these days, which is great. So if we can't get a player to sign a deal, then we're going to try and get the most amount we can for you from a club who can afford to pay what we think you're worth. On top of that, the fee, I think considering he's started, and I was just looking at this before, but I'm pretty sure it's like, 9 games for us? I'd
be surprised if it was that many in the league. Yeah, well, he hasn't, because as soon as he came in for Mundle, he played, 2 games, and then he got 3 games. And
let's count it. So I've got Watford, Derby, Leeds, Oxford, Preston, Millwall, West Brom, Sheffield United, Stoke, Bristol City, the games he's appeared in. And he started 5 of those?
Yeah.
5. So 5 starts. Yeah. So, it's an awful lot of money for a kid who's barely played. And don't get me wrong, I think he's a cracking prospect. Really excited to see him in the team. When Mundle got injured, and he came into the team for the Millwall game, and then carried on playing and just seemed to get better in every single game. And it was Sheffield United away where he really impressed us. And then in the following game, gets 2 goals against Stoke, and then gets injured the game after that against Bristol City. So he's not played an awful lot of football, and that's a lot of money. The club loses money every year. We know this. We've seen this in the accounts. That's got to be offset somehow by a player sale. If selling Tommy Watson allows us to flex a little bit more in the summer, whether we're in the Premier League or the Championship, then maybe that's just a necessary evil too. There's so many facets to this and aspects, but importantly, the club's interests are the most important to me. If Watson's being advised that he should be leaving Sunderland, then let him go for all that. I'm not bothered. There's very few players in this squad that I'm attached to. He's not one of them. Not got any attachment to Tommy Watson. I wish him well. I hope he does well at Brighton, because if he does, and gets a move to a big club like a Liverpool or an Arsenal or something, which I don't see ever happen. But let's say it does happen, then we will do well out of that, and it reflects well on our academy that a lad who's barely kicked the ball for us is getting himself a move to a Premier League club for decent money. All these things reflect really well on the club. But I don't know about you. I've got a bit of a bad taste in my mouth still. And I don't know. I just think you're right. I think it's because he's not really done anything. Really, it's just a weird move for him. I don't get it. If I'm honest, no. I think you're right. He's probably a couple of years off being ready for a move like that.
Well, again, I think he's yes, he's signed for Brighton. I think he's signed for Brighton under 21s, and again, feasibly, whichever league we're in next season, right? He will play. He would have played, 20, 30 games, whether it's in the Premier League or the Championship next season. And again, it's dead easy for us to look at it with rose-tinted glasses about Sunderland. So it's kind of, you kind of have to try to take a step back from that. But you look and go, well, if he does well, if he stayed and did well next season, started 25 games, scored 10 goals, the move he gets or the contract offer he gets next is going to be significantly better. He's going to go and be he's going to go and be a first team player somewhere else rather than an under 21 player. And I think there's a real feeling of like short term money grab situation here, where he's got a 40 grand a week offer on the table from Brighton. For example, we don't know if that's true. It's just a figure I've plucked out. But in reality, it's going to be something along those lines, isn't it? It's going to be a big money offer. In 4 years, we might be offering him 8, 9 grand a week. So there's that element to it where he's going, the money's there. But if he stayed and had a good season with us, or 2 good seasons with us, he's going to go far beyond that. And I just think, in terms of his career progression, he would have progressed quicker and better staying with us for a couple more seasons than he would do going to Brighton over the next 2 years. Because chances are he'll get loaned out to a Championship club next season, or even a League One club. He's not going to be a Premier League regular. And Brighton are stockpiling young players like that. They're doing it well, and they're doing a good job with it. But yeah, it's just it doesn't feel right, and it's never felt right. And we've had a long time to sort of think about Watson going to Brighton, because, as I say, he's been linked with them last summer, and we had the whole thing in the January window. But it's never felt like it's a logical right move. Like sometimes you see players getting linked, and we're going to have it in the summer as well. You've got Bellingham being linked with Borussia Dortmund this week, and you go, I can see that. That feels right. He's played 2 seasons of regular first-team football in the Championship, where he's got better and better, and he's standing out. That seems like a logical move, because he's ready then to go and play regular football in the first team for them. Like the Jack Clark move to Ipswich didn't seem logical to me, because it didn't seem like the right club for him to go to. That seemed a year early, because if he'd had another year with us, and absolute sorry, he would have gone to a mid-table or top 10 Premier League club and being a regular, rather than going to a bottom Premier League club and having a relegation battle. And it just seems as if there's a little bit of over eagerness to kind of take the next move and develop and take that next step with this one. Whereas, you look at, even like with Chris Rigg, right? Chris Rigg could have gone somewhere else in the summer. He signed a contract and he's playing football. I think 99% of people seem to think Rigg will be off in the summer. I'm not necessarily in that camp. I think that we might get another season out of him regardless of what division we're in, and then he might go elsewhere. And if he does that, he'd get a better move next summer than he gets this summer, because he's got another season of regular first-team football under his belt, right? But, it's the timing of the announcement is interesting to me, Gav. I don't know what you think about it. Like, why do you think they've announced it on I thought it was an April Fool at first, on the 1st of April, on 7 or 8 o'clock at night. It's why do you think it's been announced at this point?
Good question. I don't know. It's I don't know. Maybe it's been, maybe this has been done for a while now, and somebody like Romano has got the story, and the clubs have kind of had the hand force to say, right, this is happening. So rather than someone else reveal that he's actually signed, maybe they've decided, look, we're going to announce this formally. We're going to do it this way. That could be the explanation. I don't know. But it's a weird one. I can't really get my head around it. I mean, it's very uncommon, isn't it, for a transfer to be announced in April. Like, it doesn't happen, particularly when he's got a lot of football potentially left to play. I mean, it leaves him in a weird situation because all the fans know he's leaving. His teammates know he's leaving. I mean, it's not like he's starting every game. He started the other week, but that was just to give Mundle a rest. I'm in a bit of a weird place now with him. I'm looking at, we need everybody on the same page. And it's interesting, right, that some of the words used, or a lot of the words used, are about how he's focused on helping the team for the rest of the season and all that. Because naturally your first thought is to say, well, how focused is he? Because he knows he's off in the summer. Yeah. The rest of them are all playing for their futures. They're all playing thinking, if we bust a gut, we'll be playing for Sunderland in the Premier League. And they know that carrot's dangling. He already knows he's off to Brighton in the summer. So I'm not saying can we trust him as a player, but is he really part of that group? Is he really?
It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because, from an announcement point of view, you wonder whether it has just been done today. And I would say probably not. So, it's obviously been in discussions for since January. So has it actually just been signed today? Maybe, maybe not. Has it been leaked? And if so, by who? That's a big question to ask. The biggest thing is to say, cause since he's come back from injury, because obviously he was injured in January when the original deal was mooted. Since he's come back from injury, I think he's looked poor, and this might explain it.
I would agree.
And I put it down to him just getting back from injury, but this might explain it because he's maybe not been wanting to go that extra bit. And regardless of who you are, and regardless of how committed you're going to say you are, and how much you want to help something, if you know that you're leaving in June for certain, and look, we know that there's going to be a lot of question marks over Joe Bellingham, Dan Neil, Chris Rigg, other people going into summer as well. But as far as we know, there's nothing certain. There's nothing signed. There's nothing guaranteed that anybody else is leaving at this point, although, naturally there will be some of the departures, you would imagine. So this one here, he knows he's off, right? So, and again, you don't want to cast aspersions on people, but if there's a 50-50 tackle to fly into somebody, is he going to take that risk knowing that a broken leg might scupper the deal? Because that's the other thing we don't know about this. Is it certain, or does an injury, is there a clause in the contract say, well, if he gets injured, we reserve the right to renegotiate the fee, to call the deal off? Whatever it is, there could be some things like that in the agreement. And that's, regardless of whether there is or there isn't, there's going to be the perception among fans, if he pulls out of a tackle, or if he misses a shot, or whatever it is, that he's not bothered, or he's protecting himself, or he's keeping himself right for Brighton, or whatever it is. And, it's human nature. I think any of us would do that. Yeah. Any of us would look after ourselves. And, I just think do you actually have him in the team, in the squad? We talked the other day, we actually don't have a great squad depth at the minute with the injuries that we've got, to actually not have him on the bench. But in 2 or 3 weeks' time, when other people are fit, do you bring him out of the whole squad? Do we now approach him as if he's on loan? Because he is effectively, he's on loan to us for the rest of the season. Realistically, I know technically not, but realistically, that's the situation. So, if you look at it from that perspective, it's kind of like Lefay. Lefay is still going to go into tackles, even though he might be going back to Roma in the summer. So it's just a really weird one. The biggest question mark for me is how we prioritise him now. Because to me, I would much rather, if Mundle gets injured or Mundle gets taken off, I would much rather Milan Alexic come on and get minutes because he's our player beyond June. And Watson isn't. To me, now there's no point in developing a Brighton player unless he's going to significantly add to the first team right now in this moment. And Watson's not. So I think for whatever reason, the announcement of this time's created a real problem. And I can't imagine we've chosen to announce this at this time because it actually doesn't, it only causes problems. It doesn't create any positives. It's a funny one.
It is. I should probably read Tommy Watson's statement, which he put on Instagram as well. He said, Mackams, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. The support you've all shown me as I've come through the academy and broken into the first team has been amazing. Although the journey's not over yet, as the news of my move breaks, I wanted to come on here and express a massive thank you to everyone along the way. We've still got one massive push till the end of the season and goals to achieve. I'll give my all to the team to make sure we do everything we can to reach them. See all of you that are travelling Saturday, 7 huge games to go to get this club back to where it belongs. He never wrote that. That's my first thought. But no, nice words, fair enough. I just have to go back to what I said before about I've got no real attachment to this player. I barely know him as a player.
Well, we've barely seen him.
No, I've got no real. So that, he's been with Sunderland his whole career since he was a kid. Obviously, it's a big move for him, but as a fan, I'm struggling to really be too bothered about this, if I'm honest.
It's just a strange one to say. It's just an unusual one. The other possibility of why it's been announced now is so it's not another one in the summer. So if you're going to put a cynical hat on, you get this one out of the way.
Yeah.
And then if Job leaves, if Dan Neil leaves, if Chris Rigg leaves, it's just not adding another one to that list because, 1 or 2 departures, I think we can kind of go, we kind of expected that. If it gets to 4 or 5, it's panic stations, isn't it? So this one will be kind of written off by the time we get to June. This one will be written off. And, the fact that he isn't a regular first-team player anyway is the thing. I thought under Watson's Instagram post, Ian Harte's comment was interesting, Gav. What do you think?
Yeah, I should probably read that out too so people know what I'm talking about because I think it's been deleted now. But apparently, so again, I'm a proper old fart when it comes to social media, but apparently Watson had restricted who was allowed to comment on his posts. That's something you can do apparently. So it's not like me or you could just jump on there and say, good luck at Brighton or whatever, because only certain people can do that. So the father of his girlfriend, which happens to be Ian Harte, who has hardly endeared himself to Sunderland fans in recent years, given the way that he tried to engineer a move for Jack Clarke out of the club, amongst other things, commented underneath, "Congratulations, Tommy, delighted for you. Gutted we won't be seeing as much, but a fantastic move." And this is the bit that's got people's backs up, and rightly so, because there was no need to say it. And he said this because he knows Sunderland fans will read it. That's the only reason he's done this, and because he's a dick. Don't worry about some of the fickle fans. They are the experts, and then in caps, not ... There was a reason why you play professional football and they sit in the stands. Going to miss you guys. And Tommy Watson liked the comment too. So again, that was completely unnecessary. It's added fuel to the fire. He's since deleted it, but it's out there. Everyone's already seen it. That's the father of his girlfriend, who, whatever. But why? Why was that necessary? And why is Watson like it? We were talking about this on the news pod me and Johnny did about likes and stuff because Sealt and Samed got caught out liking stuff about Newcastle's cup win. And you just think we missed out, so why do it?
Yeah.
You could have read that and agreed with it and went, yeah, you're right, Ian, but I'm not going to piss people off unintentionally or intentionally by liking this comment. And why's Ian Harte got to do that? He's an arsewipe, isn't he? Honestly, I hope Sunderland never deal with this bloke again. Apparently he's Niall Huggins' agent, or was. I don't know if he's still.
He's not. It turned out he's not even an agent. He hasn't even got his,
yeah.
his license, hasn't it? So, there's that to be said. So, talk about intelligence and stuff like that. There's something in that. But hey, look, I think Harte's had an awful lot of criticism from Sunderland supporters over the last couple of years, and rightly so, because he was just trying to flog Jack Clark off left, right, and centre. And while if you're representing the player, whether you're technically his agent or not, if you're involved in that player's career, I guess you have got a duty, a responsibility. It's your job, as Roy Keane would say, to get him that next move. But how you go about it is the thing. And you don't see any or many other agents doing all of that on social media and pushing moves actively on social media for players, which I think is what left a bad taste in people's mouths. And at the end of the day, I'll always come back to this. Like, the money that football fans put into football used to be critical. Today, it's not, because you've got all the TV money. However, if you don't have football fans in stadiums, in stands, watching games, talking about games, reading things about games, talking about games, whatever it is, you don't have the TV money, because it's not an attractive thing to watch. If football was played out as it was during COVID, behind closed doors, TV audiences would diminish within 12, 18 months, because nobody would want to watch it, because it's the fans that make the game. So to write people off and to criticise and all that sort of stuff, the people who pay money, who care, who love the club, who were there long before Tommy Watson was a Sunderland, and be there for an awful long time after he's left Sunderland in June. It's just pathetic. And he's not saying that about just Sunderland supporters, in essence, is he? He's saying about all football supporters, all these people who know nothing, who sit in stands, who are essentially saying you're thick as fuck. Don't listen to them. They haven't got a clue what they're on about. I would actually say the vast majority of us have a lot more clue about what's going on in the bigger picture, because we've seen things happen before. We've seen what goes on. We've seen what's what. And yes, of course, we're biased towards our club, so we'll always hold our club's best interests at heart. And as we said earlier, you're looking at it from our point of view with rose-tinted glasses on. You go, well, why would you want to leave? Yeah, that's fine, because that's what football fans do. But we don't get stuck in the minute detail. We don't get stuck in, somebody promised him this and that hasn't been delivered, or he's getting £5,000 a week more than he's getting over here, or any of that sort of stuff. We can see the bigger picture. We've seen it countless times before, where young players go off and do X, Y, and Z. And this isn't a new situation. We've seen things play out before, and we can see whether a player is ready for a Premier League move or not. You can see it with your own eyes. We know football. And yes, we're not there every day. Yes, we don't know the background, what goes on. But we watch enough and know enough. And again, we've seen things before. We know when the player is ready for a Premier League move. You can see it. Like watching Joe for the season, you go, what, he's probably ready to step up. He's probably ready to go into a mid-table Premier League club, top 10 Premier League club, and he's ready to play 30 games for them next season. Probably not ready to be a regular, but he's ready to be a 30-game season player in the Premier League. And you can see it. And with Watson, he's nowhere near that. So it'll be. I'm really curious to see how all of this plays out for Tommy Watson. There's part of me hopes he does really well, and he proves me completely wrong, and he scores 20 goals in the Premier League next season. But I just don't see it.
No, I would agree, mate. Like I say, wish him all the best. Club's clearly done very well out of it. Not going to complain about having 10 million plus come into the coffers, because that's obviously going to help us in the summer, regardless of what league we're in. But I just think this is a wrong move for him. And time will tell. We might be, I've said this before, there might be a bloody Amazon and Netflix documentary about Tommy Watson in 10 years' time, and England's next superstar and all that, and they'll be playing clips of me and you saying he wasn't ready for a move to Brighton. Well, and then following that up with a video of him scoring the goal in the cup final or something. I don't know.
But you know what, Gav? Like, it's timing and circumstance as well, isn't it? So when Mundell got injured, Watson came in for as you read out earlier, for a handful of games. He just started to look like he could offer something. Sheffield United away, then the Stoke at home game, and he got crocked. Now, if he'd gone on a run then of 10, 15 games and been, a bit of a star in each of them and scored 9 or 10 goals, or 5 or 6 goals, you kind of go, oh, he's definitely got something here. And it was kind of that Stoke game. He looked as if he had, he has got a lot of potential. He's proven it. He's got a lot of potential, and he's a bit lightweight still. And if he fills out and bulks up a little bit, he could be a really, really good player. But I just think he needs, and I was going to say he needs another season at least, if not 2 seasons of Championship football or even League One football. But, he'll get that, won't he? Because Brighton will likely loan him out somewhere, whether it's abroad or in England. He'll probably get loaned out for a season or 2 to develop. Then they'll bring him back and see, as 20 years old or 21 years old, how ready he is for Premier League football. So I think it's obviously a long-term move for Brighton. And, again, looking at it objectively, he obviously thinks that route is going to be better than being on the bench, coming off the bench, playing the odd game at Sunderland. So, if you take money out of the equation, you can maybe go, well, actually, you could potentially see that's a better thing, because we wouldn't loan him out for a season next season because he would be around the first team squad. So it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out for him. But I think, I'm glad the club have done what they've done insofar as it saves next season there being this whole, is he going to sign a new contract thing hanging over Watson like we had with Ross Stewart? Because, you get to that point, and the further you go into the summer and there's not a new contract agreed, it becomes that, ticking time bomb, doesn't it, where it's going to go off at some point. If, obviously we still would have got something at tribunal, wouldn't we? But it wouldn't be anywhere near a 10 or 11 million quid fee, would it? With the handful of games that he's got under his belt. So, hopefully we've done all right with it. But yeah, there is a little part of me thinks we've played it all out now to soften anything else in the summer, because we'll all have kind of forgotten about this by the summer to a large extent. So we'll, it's going to be an interesting 2 or 3 months, I think, isn't it?
It is. Well, we'll see what happens, mate. Glad to chat about it either way. We'll see what happens. I'm just kind of a bit baffled by this and the timing of it and the fact it's even happened. And yeah, it's going to be. I just hope it doesn't affect us going into the end of the season, because, his mind is going to be elsewhere, whether he says it's not or not. It's going to be elsewhere.
Well, it's only natural, isn't it?
Yeah. And if we end up, God forbid, with another injury to somebody like Romain Mundle, and we have to rely on Tommy Watson to come in, we need him to be really at it. And, well, that's the other thing.
That's going to be a big thing, isn't it? The crowd reaction to him, because... Yeah, and that's something that we haven't talked about, because, as I said earlier, I really hope that if Mundle does, either get taken off during the game or has to sit a game or 2 out, that, either Alexic or, Lefay or whoever else plays out there ahead of Watson. I just don't think we should be using them unless we desperately have to. But if we do choose to use them, the crowd reaction is going to be indifferent at best, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be certainly a mixed reaction to him. He's not going to get, the backing that he would have got if he'd signed a new contract, for example. And, that adds a whole other different, a different perspective into this run-in, where we've got this situation to manage now that, we didn't necessarily need to have to manage. Does it take an option away from the bench? As we've talked about, possibly it does. And I think it probably will when everyone's fit. But how the crowd reacts to him, like if he's in the squad on Saturday, which I think he will be with the injuries that we have, what reception does he get?
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? We'll see. Well, we've got a match preview coming up later on Wednesday. We nudged it out the way a little bit. It was going to go out first thing on Wednesday morning, but we've moved that to 12 o'clock. So check your phones around about 12, half 12 this afternoon, and you will find a preview podcast, which me and Johnny recorded earlier this week with Adrian Goldberg, who is a West Brom fan, podcaster, broadcast journalist, author, TV presenter, radio presenter. He's wears many hats. He also co-hosts a football finance podcast with the one and only Charlie Smith, and so we might have talked about that a little bit on the show, so that should be interesting for everybody. So make sure you check that out. Loads of other stuff to catch up on. Noticed on the forums people saying they weren't aware we were about and they're going to subscribe and they're going to get stuck in. Well, if this is your first listen of us, make sure you catch up. Loads of stuff on the feeds, loads of really, really good interviews that we did over the international break that's still really relevant now that you can catch up on. So check your feeds for the podcast, see who we've interviewed, and it might interest you, and check them out too. So yeah, plenty to listen to. Thanks, Martin. Been good, mate. Appreciate it.
Not a problem.
I'm off to bed. I am tired. It is late. These are the sacrifices we make for you people out there. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening. We'll be back, like I say, later on Wednesday with a preview for the match on the weekend. Catch you later.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.